There are moments when your body is already lying down, but your mind is still standing somewhere else, as if it hasn't fully stepped away from the day that just ended. Not because you are worried, not exactly because you are thinking too much, just because things haven't fully settled yet. If you are in that moment right now, that is completely normal. You do not need to fall asleep right away. You do not need to relax immediately. You do not need to do anything correctly. You only need to listen. Imagine that you are lying still, not in your familiar room, not on your familiar bed, but on the surface of the earth itself. No walls, no ceiling, no sounds of the city. Only a planet quietly existing in a very wide space. The earth is turning. It turns steadily. It turns slowly. So slowly that you never feel this movement at all. One full turn takes about 24 hours. This movement does not need reminders. It does not need control. It has been happening this way for a very long time. Before there were people. Before there were memories. Before any stories were ever told. This movement creates day and night. Not because the earth wants change, not because it chooses light or darkness, but because this is how it continues to exist. When one side of the planet faces the sun, the other side slowly moves into shadow. And then they trade places. No announcement, no stopping, no hurry. Right now, you do not need to know whether it is day or night. That is no longer important. Here, there are no clocks, no schedules, no tasks waiting to be finished. Everything can pause. Around the earth is a very thin layer of air, so thin that from far away it looks like a faint glow holding the planet gently. Yet this thin layer keeps warmth in, softens the sun's light, allows rain to fall, allows wind to move, allows life to unfold slowly. Without it, the earth would be a cold piece of stone drifting silently through darkness. Now, imagine that you are slowly leaving the surface. No flying upward, no pushing force, no effort at all. Just becoming lighter, like when you relax and let your body sink into calm water. The ground slowly moves away. Familiar details begin to blur. Clear edges fade into distance. There is no moment called leaving. Only distance growing little by little. As you move higher, the blue sky begins to fade. The familiar blue does not disappear suddenly. It becomes thinner, paler. And then it is gone. Above you, there is no color you recognize. Only a deep darkness. Not frightening, not empty. Just very quiet. From here, you look back at the earth. It is no longer large, only a small blue sphere floating in a calm vastness. You can see dark oceans, thin white clouds, soft patches of light where people live and move. Places that once felt so familiar are now only tiny points. Not because they matter less, but because you are seeing them from somewhere else. A place where you do not need to react, do not need to respond, do not need to hurry for anything. Here, gravity grows weaker. Your body does not need to balance itself. Your shoulders can drop without instruction. Your jaw can loosen without effort. Your breathing finds its own rhythm. No control, no adjustment. Farther away, the sun is still shining, not intensely, not harshly, simply giving off light as it always has. That light takes more than 8 minutes to reach the earth. Even light needs time to arrive. Nothing here moves too fast. Nothing is pushing you forward. Nothing expects you to keep up. You are drifting. No clear direction. No specific destination. Just drifting. Ahead of you, the earth continues to grow smaller. Behind you, familiar thoughts are slowly fading too. No need to hold them. No need to push them away. They can dissolve in their own way. You do not need to remember what you just heard. You do not need to keep any images. If a thought appears, let it pass like a thin cloud. If there is nothing at all, that is perfectly fine. You are safe. There is nothing to do. Nothing to decide. Just allow this moment to unfold in its own rhythm. We will go farther later. But not right now. For now, let your body grow familiar with the feeling of not holding on. Everything can slow down. Your breathing too. And you as well. Even while you are lying still, the earth does not stop. There is no announcement, no sound, no clear sign. It simply continues to move in its own way. That movement is not rushed. It is nothing like what humans usually call hurry. It is steady. It is stable. And it has been happening for a very long time. Right now, as you are listening, the earth is still turning around its own axis. One slow rotation. Quiet. You do not feel it because everything around you is turning together. There is no fixed point for comparison. This movement does not make you dizzy. It does not throw you off balance. It is gentle enough to become the background. Like very light rain falling far away, you only notice it after everything else has settled. Beyond its rotation, the earth is also moving around the sun. A very large path. Very slow. It takes about 365 days to complete one full circle. That path is not a perfect circle. It is slightly tilted, slightly off-center. This small imperfection creates the seasons. Spring, summer, autumn, winter. The seasons do not arrive because the earth wants change. They appear because of that small tilt and because the earth does not stand still. When one region receives more light, another receives less. And then they change places. No warning. No countdown. Just time passing, and the earth continuing along its path. You do not need to remember which season it is. That does not matter here. What matters more is that you are lying on a planet that has never stopped since it first formed. The earth was turning before there were oceans, before there was air as it is now, before there was life. It turned when it was still molten. It turned when its surface was unstable. Movement came before everything else. Life is only a small part that emerged along the way. Even things that seem very solid, like continents, like mountains, are not completely still. Large plates of land beneath the earth's surface are still moving, very slowly. So slowly that humans only notice when looking back after millions of years. Oceans widen, mountains rise, continents drift apart and slowly move closer again. There is no loud sound, no dramatic moment, just movement. You are lying on a surface that is always changing. But because it changes so slowly, you do not need to worry. Even gravity is part of this movement. The earth holds you not because it is trying, but because its mass creates a steady pull. That pull doesn't force you. It is just enough for you to feel supported, enough for you to lie still without needing to hold on to anything. Even the atmosphere around the earth is moving. Air drifts, wind travels, warm and cold currents slide around the planet. These movements create rain, create clouds, create gentle winds you have felt on your skin. No movement here is unnecessary. Everything is part of the shared rhythm. The earth does not stop to wait for you, and you do not need to keep up with it. You are on it, and it is carrying you. Right now, you are moving at a great speed through space, but because everything around you moves together, you feel nothing at all. like sitting on a smooth night train. No shaking, no sudden motion. Just the scenery outside sliding past while you are allowed to rest. You do not need to know where you are going. The earth already knows. It has followed this path for a very long time, and it will continue after you fall asleep. Nothing here requires you to stay alert to control this motion. Nothing needs your attention. You can let your body grow heavier. Let your breathing slow down without forcing it. Let thoughts appear and fade. The earth keeps turning. The sun remains. Nothing is changing suddenly. Everything is happening exactly the way it always has. And you are being carried safely along. We will move farther away from the earth later, but not yet. For now, just allow this steady motion to do its work. No thinking, no remembering. Just let this stability spread slowly through your body. Everything is still moving, and you can rest inside that movement. As the earth continues to move, it is not alone. It is part of a larger flow, a flow that is not loud, not rushed. It is simply happening. The solar system does not stand still in space. It is drifting, not drifting without direction, but drifting along a very long, very slow path around the center of the galaxy. But before going that far, stay here with the solar system for a moment. A group of planets moving together around a star. The sun is there, not as a blinding point of light, but as a steady presence. It does not pull everything by force. It holds by simply being there. The planets are not tied to the sun. They are falling continuously. But because of their sideways motion, that fall becomes a wide circle. And that is how an orbit forms. You do not need to picture this with precision. Just know that everything here is moving in a very natural way. Mercury drifts quickly, close to the sun, small and warm. Venus moves a little slower, wrapped in thick clouds. Earth continues its familiar path. Mars is farther out, colder. Farther still, the giant gas planets move slowly. Their orbits take years, decades, but nothing is left behind. Each planet moves in its own rhythm. No comparison, no competition, just being in the right place at the right speed for itself. Between the planets there is a vast space, not completely empty. There is dust. There are small rocks, leftover pieces from when the solar system was first forming. These pieces are drifting too. They do not need to go anywhere. They only need to exist within the shared flow. Farther out, comets travel on very long paths. They take decades, sometimes hundreds of years, to return near the sun just once. When they come close, they brighten. Not because they are new, but because the light reveals what was already there. Then they move away again. No rush, no regret. The entire solar system is like a piece of music without a climax. Only a steady rhythm. Repeating orbits, stable distances, long cycles far beyond a human lifetime. You are on a planet that is drifting within that same flow. No control required, no direction needed. Right now, the Earth is moving at a great speed around the sun. But because that motion is so smooth, you feel nothing. Like lying on a large boat gliding across calm water. No waves, no strong wind, only a sense of stability. Light from the sun reaches the Earth every day, not early, not late. That rhythm has repeated for billions of years. Even before humans existed, that light still arrived. And even while you sleep, it continues in its own rhythm. Nothing in the solar system is waiting for your attention. Nothing here needs you to fully understand it. You only need to know that everything is being held in a very stable state, a state that allows you to rest. Gravitational forces keep the planets in their places. Not too tight, not too loose, just enough. If stronger, everything would become chaotic. If weaker, everything would drift apart. But here, everything is balanced. That balance does not need supervision. It was set in place a very long time ago, and it continues without any intervention. You are inside that balance, being carried gently along. Nothing is rushing toward you. Nothing is chasing you. Only the flow continuing. You do not need to remember the names of the planets. You do not need to remember their order. That information is not important here. What matters is that you are within a system that has been stable for a very long time. Your body can trust that stability. Your shoulders can soften. Your chest can loosen. Your breathing finds a depth that feels right. If a thought appears, let it drift with the flow. No need to hold it. No need to follow it. The solar system keeps drifting. The Earth keeps turning. The sun keeps shining. Nothing is changing suddenly. Everything is unfolding exactly the way it always has. We will go farther still, beyond the solar system, beyond familiar paths, but not now. For now, just allow this slow flow to do its work. You do not need to follow it. You are already inside it. The solar system does not only circle the sun, it is also moving. Another kind of motion, larger, slower, and very hard to feel. While the planets follow their familiar loops, the entire solar system is drifting through space, not leaving any place behind, not heading toward a specific point, just continuing to move. You can imagine this like a large raft floating on a very wide river. The things on the raft can move around each other, can make small motions. But the raft itself is still drifting with the current. That river has no clear banks, no markers. It is the space between the stars. The solar system has followed this flow for a very long time, before the Earth had stable oceans, before the atmosphere became familiar. It was already drifting through the quiet darkness of the galaxy. This movement makes no sound, leaves no trail of light. There is nothing you can see directly. Even scientists only notice it by comparing very distant positions across very long stretches of time. The solar system is passing through different regions of space. Some areas are slightly denser, some are very sparse, but these changes happen very slowly. So slowly that life on Earth does not need to pay attention. At times, the solar system passes through regions with more dust and gas. At other times, it moves through spaces that are almost empty. These changes are not dramatic. There are no clear signs, no special moments, just the surroundings gradually becoming different. The Earth travels with the solar system throughout this journey, not left behind, not moving ahead. It is carried along steadily. If there were a map marking the solar system's path, it would be a very long line, gently curved, with no sharp turns. A path not made to arrive quickly. There is no truly familiar place in space, only positions we have stayed in long enough to call familiar. The solar system does not remain anywhere long enough to form an attachment. It simply continues by the inertia of its original motion. Right now, you are leaving a position you never knew the name of. And you are also moving closer to another position you will never be able to feel. There is no reason to worry about this. Nothing requires preparation. This motion has been happening without your involvement. You can let your body lie still while the solar system continues its journey. No shaking, no sudden changes. Like sleeping on a long train, moving through the night. You do not know where the train is passing, and that does not matter. What matters is that the train moves smoothly, and you are being carried safely along. The solar system does not return to old points, not because it cannot, but because there is no reason. The space behind is no different from the space ahead. Every place in the galaxy is part of the same vast environment. There are no clear borders, no areas that are safe or unsafe in the way humans often imagine. Some regions are quieter, some are more active, but the solar system passes through them all without needing to change its nature. You are the same. You do not need to adapt to this motion. It does not ask for your attention. Your body can continue to soften. Your breathing can slow down naturally. If a thought appears, let it drift away, the same way the solar system drifts. No need to hold it. No need to follow. You do not need to know where you are in the galaxy. You only need to know that you are being held by a system that has remained stable for a very long time. The solar system leaves familiar points without saying goodbye. No memories are left behind, only motion continuing, and you are inside that motion. Nothing is waiting ahead, nothing is chasing behind, only a long journey that does not need to be followed. We will continue to move farther, beyond the orbits that once felt familiar, but still very slowly. For now, just allow your thoughts to settle. Allow this steady motion to continue without any intervention. Everything is still drifting, and you can rest inside that drift. As the solar system continues to drift, it is not drifting through empty, undefined space. It is inside a very large structure, a structure with no clear boundaries, no clear beginning, and no clear end. The Milky Way, not an image to look at, but an environment to exist within. You have been here for a very long time. The Milky Way does not stand still. It is turning, a vast movement, so slow that no living being can feel it directly. The entire galaxy rotates around its center. No rush, no pause, no need for adjustment. The solar system is only a very small point within that rotation. Not at the center, not at the far edge, just in a place that is quiet enough. A spiral arm, not the largest arm, not the densest region, but an area where the distance between stars is wide enough for everything to move slowly. You are inside that spiral arm, not looking at it, not passing through it, but drifting within it. The stars around you are not standing still. They are also orbiting the center of the Milky Way. Each star follows its own path. Not synchronized, no need to be the same. The distances between stars are immense, so large that light can take years, sometimes decades, to travel from one star to another. Space here is not crowded, not tight. It is wide, very wide, and it is this openness that creates a sense of ease. The Milky Way has no sharp edge, no wall separating inside from outside, only a gradual change in the density of stars with distance. Far away, the center of the Milky Way is brighter, denser, moving faster. But you are not there. You are in a region where motion is gentler, a place where large changes rarely happen. There are no close collisions, no stars passing too near each other, only wide orbits, long rotations, and a great deal of space. The solar system takes about 200 million years to complete one full orbit around the Milky Way, a span of time so long that it loses specific meaning for humans. Within one such orbit, everything on Earth can change completely. Species appear, then disappear. Oceans open, then close again. But the rotation of the Milky Way does not stop. It does not need to notice those small changes. You do not need to understand this movement, only to know that it is very steady. And that steadiness creates a deep sense of safety. The spiral arms of the Milky Way are not rigid bands. They are more like regions that stars pass through and then leave, like very slow waves on a wide surface of water. No high crests, no heavy impacts, only a repeating rhythm stretching over millions of years. The solar system is drifting within that wave, not pulled in, not held tightly, just carried along, very gently. You are the same. You do not need to stay alert to follow this motion. It does not require your attention. The Milky Way has existed for billions of years. It was rotating long before the Earth formed, and it will continue to rotate long after everything you have known has changed. This movement has no final goal, no destination, only continuation. You can let your sense of time soften and fade. Here, there are no markers, no deadlines, only a very slow and very steady rotation, a rhythm that does not need to be counted. Stars are born and fade away while the Milky Way keeps turning. There is no event that makes it stop. You are inside a structure that has learned how to exist across a very long time. Your body can trust that. Your shoulders can grow a little heavier. Your chest can soften. Your breathing can slow down without effort. If a thought appears, let it drift along with these slow rotations. No need to hold it, no need to follow. There is nothing waiting for you at the center, nothing pulling you forward, only the wide spiral arms gently surrounding you. And you are inside them. We will travel farther still, out of this familiar arm, out of this quiet region. But not now. For now, just allow the feeling of being held to spread slowly through your body. The Milky Way keeps turning, the solar system keeps drifting, and you can rest inside that rotation. There is a place in the Milky Way that you do not need to visit, do not need to picture clearly, and do not need to understand in detail to feel at ease. It is a place that has always existed, very far from you. And it is precisely because of that distance that it places no pressure on your body or your thoughts right now. That place is the center of the Milky Way, a deep region lying far away from the position of the solar system. From where you are drifting with the Earth, that center does not appear as a clear image. It exists only as a soft idea, clear enough to know it is there, distant enough to cause no disturbance. The distance between you and the center of the Milky Way is tens of thousands of light years, a number you do not need to remember, a distance you do not need to imagine visually. It is simply very large, large enough that any intense motion at the center becomes gentle long before it reaches where you are. Closer to the center, stars are packed more tightly together. Orbits are shorter. Motion is faster. Everything there is denser and more active than in the outer regions where the solar system drifts quietly. But none of that is happening here. Distance has done its work silently, stretching every influence, softening every vibration, turning powerful changes into a steady background rhythm that barely asks for your attention, like a sound coming from very far away. By the time it reaches you, it is no longer a clear noise. It becomes a gentle hum, enough to keep things stable, not enough to make you listen or react. The solar system has been drifting within this background rhythm for a very long time. So long that humanity appears only as a brief moment within that journey. For hundreds of millions of years, This orbit has remained steady. No sudden changes, no moments that required caution. The center of the Milky Way is not a destination waiting for you to approach. It sends no invitation. It broadcasts no signal. It makes no demands on your attention. It exists only as a distant anchor, allowing the entire structure of the Milky Way to continue operating in its familiar way. You are at a distance that has proven stable across immense spans of time. That distance is not separation. It is a protective buffer, one that allows motion to remain slow, gentle enough to avoid unease. Your body does not need to be alert to the center of the Milky Way. No danger is approaching. No pressure is closing in. You are not being pulled toward it, and you are not being pushed out of your familiar path. Your breathing can slow naturally, without guidance. Each inhale and each exhale has enough time to complete itself. Nothing far away is rushing you. Your shoulders can soften a little more, as if their weight is being placed onto a soft surface. Your jaw and your forehead can ease as well. They no longer need to stay tense, ready to respond to sudden change. The center of the Milky Way existed long before the Earth formed, and it will exist long after the familiar shapes of the present have transformed. But you do not need to follow that thought very far. Time here does not need to be measured or compared. Time in the motion of the Milky Way was not created to count moments. It simply flows, repeats, continues. It does not ask for constant awareness. It does not need close monitoring. The solar system continues its long orbit around that distant center. This orbit does not speed up or slow down because of human attention. It does not drift off course simply because you are resting. You are the same. You are drifting within a motion established long ago. There is no reason to move faster. No reason to stay awake, to keep up. If a thought appears, you do not need to push it away or hold on to it. You can allow it to drift with this slow movement, to dissolve without leaving a clear trace. Everything vast in the Milky Way is very far away. That distance is what makes the place you are in feel calm, untouched by the powerful changes happening elsewhere. The center of the Milky Way remains where it is. It does not move closer. It does not move farther away. It holds its position, and you do not need to do anything about its existence. You only need to be here, within the gentle motion already underway, within a safe distance maintained through countless rotations. No need to understand, no need to remember. Just allow this background rhythm to continue supporting you. And as you remain still within that motion, everything vast can stay where it belongs. Far away. Steady. Not disturbing the rest that is slowly spreading through you. There are movements that do not need to be felt by the body to exist very clearly. They create no strong vibration. They cause no sudden change. They do not require your attention to continue. Time in the Milky Way is this kind of movement, long, slow, with no clear beginning. When people think about time, they often think in small markers, a day passing, a year closing, a familiar phase of life. But within the motion of the solar system and the Milky Way, those markers are too brief to make a real difference. Here, time is not felt through rapid change, but through very steady repetition. The solar system is moving through a very long orbit around the distant center of the Milky Way. An orbit not measured in days or years, but in hundreds of millions of years, a number you do not need to remember. What matters is not the exact length, but the feeling of time being greatly stretched, Throughout one such long orbit, there is no moment marked as special. No climax, no clear acceleration, no ending that forces everything to stop. The orbit simply continues, repeats, and blends into the next one naturally. The Earth, together with you, rests within a much smaller orbit inside that greater motion. Each day, the planet completes one turn on its axis. Each year, it completes one orbit around the Sun. But these familiar cycles are only thin layers within a far longer movement. Time at this scale does not create pressure. It does not suggest that you are falling behind. It does not demand that you keep up. It simply flows, evenly, unconcerned with whether you are awake or asleep, focused or relaxed. You may have noticed that time feels fast during busy days and slow during moments of waiting. But within the long rotations of the Milky Way, time has no fast or slow based on emotion. It keeps a very steady pace, slow enough for every change to unfold gently. Within that steadiness, there is no need to hurry. Nothing asks you to remember, to analyze, to decide. Time here carries no task. It exists only as a continuous background for all other motion. The solar system has completed only a few orbits around the Milky Way since it formed. That number is small and difficult to imagine. Yet this does not make the motion insignificant. Because each orbit lasts so long, everything becomes durable and orderly. Throughout these long rotations, stars are born and fade away. Clouds of dust form and dissolve. Orbits adjust slowly. All of this happens without requiring anyone's attention, as if time itself knows how to do its work. You do not need to follow these changes. You do not need to understand them in order to rest. Time does not ask for active participation. It only asks that you allow it to keep flowing. As you lie still and allow your breathing to slow, you are joining a much smaller rhythm, yet one that moves in the same direction as those vast rotations. There is no conflict between your breath and the time of the Milky Way. Neither one is in a hurry. At times, people try to hold on to time, fearing it will pass too quickly. But in the motion of the universe, time is not something that can be lost. It only changes form, moving from one moment to the next without creating emptiness. Long rotations do not create tension. They do not push things to finish within short limits. They allow processes to unfold completely, slowly, without collision or disorder. The solar system continues its orbit. The Earth continues its familiar movements. And you are here, on such a planet, in a moment that doesn't need to be special, within a motion that doesn't need your attention. If thoughts arise about the past or the future, you do not need to follow them. Within long cycles of time, past and future are not separate points. They are simply different positions along the same wide circle. You can allow those thoughts to dissolve the way a small wave fades into a wide sea. Nothing is lost. Nothing needs to be held. Time here has no sharp edges. It does not cut through your experience. It simply supports everything, allowing motion to continue without drawing attention. Even when you do not think about time, it continues to flow. Even as you drift toward sleep, these long rotations continue as well. Not faster, not slower, unchanged by the absence of awareness. This can bring a gentle sense of reassurance that you do not need to watch over everything for the world to keep moving. There are movements large enough and stable enough to sustain themselves, allowing you to rest without concern. The long rotations of time do not require alertness. They do not need recognition. They simply exist as a steady foundation for every small experience that unfolds above them. You can allow your body to soften even more, knowing that nothing needs to be completed in this moment. No marker is approaching. No limit is waiting. Time will continue to flow, whether you notice it or not. And within that continuation, you may allow yourself to rest more deeply, settling into a slow rhythm that existed long before you became aware of it. The long rotations are still unfolding, steady, enduring. Far from small concerns, you do not need to follow them with thought. Simply allow them to remain as a background for the quiet that is slowly spreading. And as time continues in its own way, you may allow awareness to settle, without holding, without measuring, resting in a moment that is very light, very still, within long rotations that are never in a hurry. The Milky Way is not still, even though from where you are, everything may appear motionless. The quiet you sense is not a sign that movement has stopped. It is the result of motions that are very slow, very steady, and distant enough to cause no disturbance. From the inside, the Milky Way does not resemble a fixed picture hanging in space. It is more like a very wide current, where everything drifts according to its own rhythm. These movements do not collide forcefully. They do not create sudden change. They simply continue, silently, across long stretches of time. The stars in the Milky Way are not standing in place. They are moving, each one following its own orbit, with speed and direction maintained steadily over millions of years. This movement does not feel chaotic, because everything is held within a very broad order. The solar system is part of this current as well. It does not stand apart. It is not separate. It drifts together with billions of other stars within a shared motion. With each passing moment, the position of the solar system changes slightly, too gently to be felt by the senses. This change does not need to be monitored. It carries no warning signal. It demands no attention. It simply happens, as part of a structure established long ago. The Milky Way rotates, but not like a solid object. Different regions move at different speeds, creating a motion that is soft and uneven, yet balanced. From a distance, this movement may appear as a gentle spiral. From within, it is only a very stable background rhythm. Within this motion, no point is favored over another. There is no center issuing commands for the rest to follow. Everything adjusts itself, holding its place within the shared flow. The Milky Way's motion does not carry urgency. It does not resemble a race. It does not feel like pursuit. It is more like a slow drift, where each part has enough time to complete its movement. You are within a very small part of this motion. So small that the change in your position over the course of a night is almost nothing at all. But this doesn't mean you are separate from the flow. You are still drifting, just within a very gentle rhythm. When you think about the Milky Way not being still, you do not need to imagine rapid or violent motion. Nothing is rushing past at a speed that creates tension. Large numbers about velocity exist only on paper. They do not exist in the experience of the body. In your direct experience, this movement is a quiet background. It is stable enough to allow planets to form, orbits to remain, and life to exist without constant disturbance. The Milky Way has been in this state of motion for a very long time, before the Earth existed, before the Sun existed. The current had already begun. and after the familiar forms of the present have changed, this current will continue without requiring any witness. You do not need to follow that thought very far. What matters is not the beginning or the end, but the feeling that this motion creates no pressure in the present moment. Nothing in the Milky Way's motion asks you to adjust yourself. You do not need to adapt to it, because you have been part of it since you existed. Your breathing, whether slow or fast, does not affect this motion. And this motion does not affect your ability to relax or to rest. The two rhythms exist side by side without interfering with one another. The Milky Way is not still, but it does not disturb. It does not send constant signals to remind you that change is happening. Change unfolds in the background, slow enough to preserve a sense of safety. Within this wide current, there are denser regions where many stars gather, and sparser regions where movement is gentler. The solar system is in such a region, quiet enough to avoid disruption, stable enough to hold its rhythm over long spans of time. This stability is not accidental. It is the result of motions tested over immense periods. Unstable orbits have shifted or faded, leaving behind paths durable enough to continue. You are in a part of the Milky Way that has proven itself suitable for long rest. No collision is approaching. No large change is unfolding in this moment. When you allow your body to relax further, you are not resisting the motion of the Milky Way. You are simply joining another rhythm, smaller, slower, yet moving in the same direction as the larger flow. If a thought arises that everything is changing, you can let it pass without reaction. Change here is not threatening. It does not require preparation or defense. The Milky Way is not still, but its motion is gentle. It does not interrupt what is happening within you. It does not intrude upon the softening sensation in your body. You might imagine this motion as a very deep current, flowing steadily beneath the surface. At the surface, everything may appear calm, and for your experience, that calm is enough. There is no need to track every small change, no need to understand the full structure of this motion. It has unfolded this way for a very long time. There is no reason for it to become sudden, right now. The Milky Way continues to drift. The solar system drifts with it. The Earth continues its familiar rotations, and you, in this moment, may continue to rest without watching over anything. The Milky Way's motion does not take away your sense of peace. On the contrary, its steadiness creates a stable background, allowing smaller things to exist without disruption. You may let your thoughts settle, knowing that nothing is asking you to act. No signal needs to be decoded. No deadline is approaching. The Milky Way is not still, but it is not in a hurry. And within this unhurried rhythm, you may allow yourself to slow down, to merge with a background motion that has existed for a very long time, and will continue long after you have finished resting. The Milky Way is not a perfectly even, round shape. It spreads through space in long, gentle curves, like arms slowly opening outward. These spiral arms were not created to impress. They are simply the natural result of motion extended across a very long time. From where you are, these arms do not appear as clear shapes. You do not see their boundaries. You cannot tell exactly where they begin or where they end. They exist as regions where stars and dust are slightly denser, drifting through space without needing to be identified. The spiral arms are not still. They are not rigid structures fixed in the Milky Way. Instead, they are more like slow waves, where stars and clouds of gas move in and then move out over time, while the overall form remains. Your solar system lies within one such region, not at the center of a major arm, but in a quieter area, where the density of stars is just enough to avoid disturbance. This position is not remarkable in an attention-drawing way, yet it is well suited for long-term stability. The spiral arms are not paths that stars follow for their entire lives. Instead, stars cross through these arms over very long periods, much like an object passing through a slower-moving current within a larger body of water. This movement does not create collisions. The distances between stars remain vast, wide enough for everything to unfold gently. What you call spiral arms are not solid bands moving together, but regions where the presence of matter is more noticeable. Within these regions, gas and dust tend to gather more often. This allows new stars to form over time, but this process is not loud or sudden. It unfolds slowly, gradually, and repeats across spans of time that cannot be felt directly by humans. Because of this, the spiral arms do not carry a sense of urgency. They are not arms reaching outward in search of anything. They are simply curved paths, maintained by the shared motion of the entire Milky Way. As the solar system drifts through regions like these, there is no signal marking a major change. There is no sharp boundary between being inside or outside a spiral arm. The shift happens slowly, gentle enough to avoid any clear sensation of difference. This gradual change allows orbits to remain stable over long periods. There is no sudden pull, no abrupt increase in density, forcing quick adjustment. Everything has enough time to adapt to its surroundings. The spiral arms do not remain forever in exactly the same form. Over very long spans of time, they may shift position, fade, or be reshaped by larger motions within the Milky Way. But these changes are so slow that there is no need for concern. In this present moment, the arms are still there, holding a familiar structure, stable enough to leave your rest undisturbed. They do not create events that demand attention. They do not carry the feeling that something is about to happen. You might imagine the spiral arms as gentle currents within a vast ocean. The water is always moving, yet the surface may remain calm. And for your experience, that calm is what matters. Stars are born within the spiral arms, and over time they drift outward, carrying their own paths. They are not held in place. They are not pushed away. They simply continue their motion within the larger structure of the Milky Way. The solar system is doing the same. It is not bound to any single arm. It does not depend on being inside or outside these denser regions. It follows a long orbit, kept stable for a very long time. The existence of the spiral arms does not make the Milky Way chaotic. On the contrary, they are an expression of a gentle order, where motion and structure coexist without rigidity. You do not need to remember the names of the arms. You do not need to locate them precisely. That information is unnecessary for rest. What matters is the feeling that this structure is wide enough and slow enough to create no pressure. Within the spiral arms, all processes unfold at their own pace. Nothing is forced to finish quickly. This creates a stable background, allowing everything to complete itself fully. As you allow your body to relax, you are not separating yourself from these structures. You are simply joining a smaller rhythm, slower, yet still moving within the same shared motion. If a thought appears that the Milky Way is complex, you may let it pass. Complexity here is not threatening. It does not require understanding in order to be safe. The spiral arms are not reaching out to hold you. They are simply soft curves, maintained by long-lasting motion, with no intention, no goal. Their existence does not change your present experience. You are still lying still, in a moment that requires no analysis and no reaction. The Milky Way continues to drift. The spiral arms maintain their familiar form. The solar system continues its long orbit. Nothing in this motion asks you to stay alert or attentive. You may allow your thoughts to settle, knowing that there are no boundaries you need to watch. No markers are approaching. Everything is unfolding at a pace, slow enough to avoid disturbance. The spiral arms remain, opening outward in space, giving the Milky Way its familiar shape. And you, in this moment, may continue to rest, supported by a structure that is vast, yet gentle. There is no need to follow these curves with thought, no need to imagine them in detail. It is enough to know that they exist, slow, stable, and undisturbing to the quiet that is slowly spreading within you. And as the spiral arms continue to move in their own way, you may allow yourself to drift deeper into rest, not pulled forward, not left behind, simply present, in a moment that is very light, very still, within the long curves of the Milky Way. Between the spiral arms of the Milky Way, not every region is dense with motion. There are areas that stretch out quietly, where stars are more widely spaced, where light does not overlap too strongly, and where movement softens. These regions are not prominent. They are not often mentioned. Yet it is their quietness that creates a very deep sense of safety. Your solar system is drifting within one of these regions, not at the center of a large spiral arm, not where processes are tightly packed, but in a space far enough for everything to unfold slowly. This position was not chosen intentionally, yet it is well suited for long-term stability. In these quiet regions, the distances between stars are greater. This means fewer encounters, less disturbance, fewer sudden changes. Every orbit has enough room to persist without needing rapid adjustment or constant reaction to its surroundings. This quietness is not emptiness. It is a form of balance, where motion still exists, but creates no pressure. Stars continue to move. Clouds of gas continue to drift. Yet everything unfolds within a slow rhythm, gentle enough to avoid unease. From the inside, you cannot sense the boundaries of these quiet regions. There is no clear line between what is called a spiral arm and what is called an open space. The transition happens gradually, so softly that it cannot be felt by the senses. It is this gentle transition that allows the solar system to continue its orbit without interruption. There is no moment that marks leaving one region and entering another. Everything unfolds continuously, without needing to be noticed. The quiet regions between the arms do not carry a sense of waiting. They are not empty gaps, expecting to be filled. They are simply part of the overall structure, existing to keep the shared motion from becoming too crowded. In these regions, time seems to stretch, not because it moves more slowly, but because there are fewer events to mark its passage. The absence of dramatic change creates a sense of length, allowing body and awareness to soften. The solar system has drifted within this quiet region for a very long time. Throughout that span, no major event has forced the orbit to change sharply. This is not luck. It is the natural result of existing within a zone of gentle motion. You do not need to understand the details of this location to feel safe. Your body does not need numbers or maps to know that nothing is approaching. The sense of stability comes from regularity, not from knowledge. These quiet regions do not isolate you from the rest of the Milky Way. You remain part of the shared flow. Here, that flow does not create large waves. It is like a wide stretch of river where water moves steadily, without strong currents. In such a river, everything has time to settle. Small movements are not amplified. Minor changes are not rushed. This creates a stable background for processes to unfold naturally. As you lie still and allow your breathing to slow, you are mirroring the rhythm of this region of space. There is no conflict between your breath and the motion of the Milky Way here. Both are slow. Both are steady. Neither is urgent. The quiet regions between the spiral arms are not places entirely without formation. Stars can still be born here, but the process is sparse and extended. There are no rapid chains of events, no pressure to happen quickly. This allows formation to occur within stability. New orbits have time to adapt. New structures have time to endure. Slowness here is not stagnation. It is permission. You may feel this as a very gentle support. Nothing is pushing you forward. Nothing is holding you back. You are simply being carried within a current kind enough to require no resistance. If a thought arises that this quietness is only temporary, you may let it pass. There is no sign that this region is about to change quickly. Any changes that do occur unfold across very long spans of time. You do not need to watch for those changes. Nothing asks you to prepare. This quiet region has existed long enough to show that it doesn't require constant alertness. Between the arms, light is not too dense, not too bright. This creates a softened atmosphere where nothing competes to be seen. Each star has enough space to exist without being overshadowed. That absence of competition extends into your experience. Nothing in this moment asks you to pay more attention, to understand more clearly, or to do better. You are allowed to simply be here, no more, no less. The Milky Way continues to move. The spiral arms continue to hold their shape, and the quiet regions between them continue their work, silently, keeping the shared flow from becoming too intense. The solar system continues its long orbit within such an environment. And you, in this moment, may continue to rest without attending to the large motions unfolding far away. If any thought arises about needing to go somewhere, to move closer, or to understand more, you may allow it to settle. There is nowhere you need to go in this moment. The quiet regions between the arms remain, wide, soft, asking nothing of your presence. They exist as a natural part of a vast structure, creating spaces gentle enough for small things to rest. You may allow yourself to drift deeper into this quietness. No need to imagine. No need to follow. Just letting this slow rhythm continue to support you. And within that rhythm, nothing else needs to happen. Moving farther from the familiar spiral arms, the Milky Way does not end suddenly. There is no sharp boundary, no clear outline marking a place where everything stops. Instead, its structure thins gradually, softens, and quietly shifts into another state. The outer regions of the Milky Way are like this. There are no longer dense bands of stars, no overlapping light pressing in from all sides, only scattered stars, separated by very large distances, drifting through a space so wide that it is difficult to sense intuitively. Here, everything feels lighter. Not because gravity disappears, but because it spreads across a much larger space. Every movement is stretched, every orbit takes a very long time to complete, and every change unfolds with deep patience. The fading outer regions are not forgotten places. They are a natural part of a galaxy extending its influence. The stars here still belong to the Milky Way. They still turn around the shared center, but their paths are longer, and their rhythm is much slower. There is no urgency here, no chains of events stacked together. Everything happens in such a way that if you were not watching, you might notice no change at all for a very long time. In these outer regions, light becomes softer, not because it fades away, but because the distances between sources are so great. Light travels far, and by the time it arrives, it has grown dim, gentle, no longer carrying a strong sense of origin. This feeling is very different from regions closer to the center. Here, there is no sense of being surrounded. Instead, there is openness, as if space itself does not impose clear limits. The outer edge of the Milky Way does not ask for attention. It has no focal point, no local center pulling awareness in one direction. Everything spreads out evenly, without emphasis, without pressure. The stars here are often very old. They have existed for a long time, completed most of their life cycle, and now continue along long orbits, with little need to interact with their surroundings. There is little new formation in these regions. Gas and dust are sparse, not dense enough to collapse strongly. This makes the outer regions very quiet, a place where most things are continuations, not beginnings. That quietness does not feel empty. It feels like the galaxy taking a long breath, where everything is allowed to slow down without explanation. Nothing is missing. Nothing needs to be added. If you imagine the Milky Way as a great current, the outer regions are where that current spreads wide, no longer confined by clear banks. The flow still exists, but it no longer forms waves. Here, time is not marked by events. There are no standout moments, no changes strong enough to be named. Everything simply continues, quietly, without announcement. This quality fits rest very well. Nothing asks you to monitor. Nothing asks you to understand. You may allow your awareness to drift with this steadiness, without holding on to any thought. The fading outer edge of the Milky Way is not an ending. It does not mark the end of motion. It is simply where structure becomes thinner, and presence more subtle. Beyond this outer region, intergalactic space begins. But even this transition has no clear line. There is no moment where one place ends and another begins. Only a very slow change in density, in light, in the sense of connection. This reminds you that in the universe very little has sharp borders. Most things fade into one another, softly, without needing to be defined. Your solar system does not lie here, yet it is shaped by how the Milky Way opens outward. From center to fading edge, the whole structure moves together. Slow and steady. You do not need to imagine yourself there. Simply knowing that such regions exist can soften the feeling of being enclosed. To know that space always has room to thin out, to grow lighter, to release pressure. The outer edge does not carry loneliness, it carries freedom from density, not crowded by light, not overlapped by motion. Everything has enough distance to exist separately, without being cut off. If a thought arises about moving farther, you do not need to follow it. This outer region is not an invitation, only part of a wider structure, where no direction is preferred. Nothing here needs to arrive anywhere. The stars do not need to move inward. They simply continue their orbits, far enough to remain calm, close enough to still belong. As you lie still and allow your breathing to slow, you are matching this same kind of movement. Not fast, not intense, not focused. Just steady and extended. The fading outer edge of the Milky Way remains in motion, with no destination. It exists as a natural extension of the whole, with nothing that must be completed. You do not need to hold this image. You may allow it to fade, just like the outer regions themselves. Only the sense of openness and calm may remain. The Milky Way does not end where light disappears. It continues in thinness, in long distances, in motions so slow they are barely felt. And in this moment, you may rest in the thought that even the largest structures know how to soften, how to lighten, how not to hold everything too tightly. There is no moment in the universe marked as the time to arrive. Every movement continues without needing an ending. The Milky Way is the same. It does not drift in order to reach somewhere. It drifts because drifting is the natural state of everything that exists in space. Right now, the entire galaxy is moving. Not fast, not slow, just steady enough to require no attention. You are not standing still inside a moving universe. You are being carried, gently, quietly. There is no direction you need to follow, no destination you need to remember. Only an extended movement, continuous, asking nothing from you. The Milky Way does not ask where you are in its journey. It does not require that you know. Your existence does not need to be tied to a specific position within this flow. In the universe, most things have no goal. They simply continue. And it is this continuation that keeps everything stable. The solar system drifts. The Earth drifts. You drift as well. No need to control. No need to adjust. No need to hold any thought tightly to avoid being left behind. There is no ahead to chase, no behind to worry about. There is only this moment. Drifting. The stars in the Milky Way do not know which chapter of a story they are in. They do not mark time with meaning. They simply exist in steady motion, extended without a clear ending. This makes the universe very quiet. Not because nothing is happening, but because nothing needs to be emphasized. When you stop trying to follow, when you stop holding awareness in a state of alertness, you begin to blend into this drifting rhythm. Not deeper, not farther, just softer. The Milky Way has no intention of bringing you to a special place. It only carries you along. And being carried does not require that you do anything. You do not need to imagine spiral arms. You do not need to remember the position of the solar system. You do not need to hold any image in your mind. Those images may dissolve, like light fading at the outer edges of the galaxy. What remains is not an image. It is rhythm, a long rhythm, even, unhurried. When your breathing slows, it does not move against the rhythm of the universe. The two rhythms are very similar. Both do not need to be counted. The Milky Way will continue to drift whether you notice or not. It does not need your presence to complete its movement. And you do not need to follow it to be safe. In the universe, no one is left behind. Because there is no train leaving the station, everything drifts together. Everything exists within the same current. If a thought appears that you are going somewhere, you may allow that thought to dissolve. There is nowhere you need to arrive. If there is a feeling that everything is still continuing, that is not something that needs to be resolved. It is the normal state of existence. The Milky Way does not complete its journey. It does not move toward a conclusion. It simply extends. And within that extension, everything has enough time to settle. You do not need to fall asleep right now. You also do not need to try to stay awake. You only need to continue drifting within this steady rhythm. No need to remember what you are listening to. No need to keep awareness at the surface. The words may pass through you without leaving a trace. Like light traveling across vast distances without needing to touch anything. The Milky Way is still drifting, long after this moment. And long before you ever thought of it. This drifting does not depend on awareness. It does not need to be witnessed. You are allowed to rest inside a universe that does not require you to understand, does not require you to keep up, only to be within it. And if your awareness softens, if your breathing deepens, if the sense of space around you dissolves, that is not losing control. That is alignment. The Milky Way drifts. You drift. No destination. No demand. Only a very long continuation, gentle enough for you to rest inside it.